Hello. Welcome back to another most beautiful chapter of The Stars Above. A very magical chapter, a splendid chapter. You might say that it's a direct follow-up to the previous chapter. I know that's traditionally how books work. You know, chapters go in consecutive order, but I think that this chapter pairs really well with the last chapter. You know, in terms of the last chapter being a bit of a curveball, the magic of Icarus's mother bleeds into this chapter, and it pairs with it so very well. If I were to say the last chapter was like a fine red wine, then this chapter is a bit of a charcuterie board. You know, this chapter is a bit of a charcuterie board. There's so much variety. I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's so much variety to this chapter. If the last chapter about Icarus's mother was a fine red wine, this chapter is a charcuterie board. And I say that because a charcuterie board, not only is there so much variety, but there's always something you don't like. There's always something a little icky, a little distasteful. There's a terrible cracker. There's a cracker that has some weird seed on it, fennel. There's a fennel seed cracker or something. And you're working your way around the grapes and the meats and the cheeses, and there's always a weird cheese too that smells like absolute dog shit. And then you see that cheese, and then you see that cracker, and someone at the party, there's always someone at the party that picks up the fennel seed cracker and the shitty dog shit cheese, and they pair that and they eat it and they say, wow, this is so good. But in the back of your mind, you're saying, you're a fucking masochist. I don't trust you. You probably also like IPAs, because nobody who says they like IPAs actually likes them. You're just trying to be a part of the fad. I don't need to go into that. But if the last chapter was like a fine wine, this chapter is like a charcuterie board. There's so much variety, but there's things, you know, that you work around. But you work around those things, those problems in life. You know, those icky little things, and you face them. Maybe you give the fennel seed cracker and the shitty dog shit cheese a try, just because you want to experience it. You want to experience it. You see the person that paired it and they said, wow, this is so good. I think I'd like to also drink an IPA with this instead of the fine red wine. You tell yourself you're a fucking liar. I don't believe you. I don't trust you. But you know what? I will try it anyway. You try it. You experienced it. It is, in fact, dog shit. You don't have to try it again. There's variety to this chapter. There's variety. There's all different types of emotion. I'm not going to spoiler alert anything. But anyway, today, as you can see, a beautiful day. The last chapter, you know, the forecast said all week that it was cloudy. It did not predict Hurricane Whoopsie Daisy. I was unprepared for that. It did not say anything about Hurricane Whoopsie Daisy. It said it was cloudy. And on this magical day, we start the other magical chapter. The clouds are parted in our direction. We get to this chapter. The sun is quite literally melting the clouds away. The sun is blessing us with his good graces. He is melting the clouds so that we can continue onward with this most magical chapter. Shout out to Mr. Sun. Thank you for melting the clouds away. I suppose that brings me to today's sponsor. Considering the last several days have been so gloomy, so cold, so bitter, and it's such a beautiful, wonderful day, the clouds are being melted away. So today's sponsor is just appreciating and living on planet Earth, living in planet Earth. we live in a society that is so goddamn detached. They're so goddamn detached from the world. Everyone is glued to their fucking phone. They're glued to their social media. They're trying to mold themselves to what they see, to what they believe expectations are, standards. We're being fed all these false standards through our social medias, in our societies. People are becoming so detached, they're becoming obsessed with superficiality, being vain. They go into things like virtual reality to see the sun. They go to virtual reality and they're like, I want to go to the beach. So they go into their little virtual reality and then they go to the beach instead of just going out into fucking planet Earth and going to the beach. I don't understand it. You know, and then this bleeds over into other things. Did you know that there are people who have memberships to tanning salons? I recently discovered that. Even in summertime, I see stores, tanning salon. And they go by memberships, like a gym. They go like a gym membership to a tanning salon. As if they do not know that there is a sun outside. There's so much cow shit around me right now. Sorry. Beauty standards. People are trying to meet beauty standards. People are eating things like amphetamines, fat burners. I have been hearing this new thing. What is it called? Ozempic? I don't really watch the news. I don't use too much technology, but I'm hearing about this thing because it is just, everyone's going crazy about it. Ozempic, I believe it's called. I don't exactly know what it does, but I hear that it just melts your body like hydrochloric acid. Like hydrochloric acid. You might as well be eaten by the fucking man-eating anaconda. You take the Ozempic, hydrochloric acid or something goes through your body, it just melts, you become a skeleton. You may as well come out here and throw a Budweiser can into the fucking bush. The man-eating anaconda will come, he will dislocate his jaw, he will fucking eat you, and then that is basically Ozempic. From what I understand, I'm not a doctor, I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I'm pretty fucking sure that it's just man-eating anaconda juices, hydrochloric acid goes through your body, you become a skeleton. Whereas you were once not a skeleton, you were perhaps a very large person, now you are a skeleton. So yeah, we are so detached, we are so obsessed with meeting everyone else's standards, meeting the internet standards, meeting the celebrity standards, expectations. We are trying to meet everyone else's expectations of what we think is correct or appropriate, or none of that shit fucking matters. Go live on planet Earth. Go outside and live on planet Earth. There's just this beautiful place out here called planet Earth. If you just put down your phone for a second, get off the beach in virtual reality, there's this place. I assure you it is so spectacular. There's so much adventure and marvels on planet Earth that I assure you are much more enticing than scrolling on your TikTok, scrolling on your Instagram, scrolling on your fat burner forums. I assure you that if you were to go on a little spiritual pilgrimage to your local desert, wherever that may be, go out to your local desert 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, whatever. Try to wear minimal clothing. Stick to a strict diet of pickles and licorice. Pickles and licorice and coffee and tobacco, cigarettes. Smoke lots of cigarettes, eat pickles and licorice, drink coffee. Have yourself a spiritual pilgrimage. I guarantee you, at the end of that however many days, one, you will have a fucking sick base tan. Look at my base tan. Sick base tan. No membership required for that base tan. And 2, the fat will just melt away. Because you are primarily feasting off of planet Earth. You're feasting off of planet Earth's whatever. Energy. Planet Earth has so much energy. It's just reverberating through you. And then on top of that, you're eating pickles and olives. Or not olives, fucking pickles and licorice. The olives are on the charcuterie board. That's where you find the olives. Anyway, all these things that you want, that you see on the whatevers, just go out to your local desert. They'll solve all your problems. Preferably, go somewhere where you don't even get reception, so that you cannot scroll your pages, so that you cannot scroll your social medias. And I assure you, you will leave rejuvenated. You will leave your local desert rejuvenated. You will feel spiritual prosperity, spiritual vitality. And then you will get home and you will say, you will walk into your tanning salon, you'll say, I'm canceling my membership. I just discovered that there is a sun outside. And I don't need to go into your booth that has fake sunlight. I don't need that. I just discovered there's a sun. I went out to my local desert, I discovered the sun. And then you will call your doctor and you will say, doctor, unprescribe me Ozempic. I don't need it anymore. I went out to the desert. I threw a Budweiser can in the bush. A man-eating anaconda ate me, and now I'm a skeleton. So I no longer need Ozempic. Don't need it. Just try that stuff out. You know, that's today's sponsor. Living on planet Earth is today's sponsor. There's a beautiful world outside. And I guarantee that if you stop scrolling on your phone, you get off virtual reality, take off the goggles, stop begging your doctor to prescribe you weird medications, I guarantee you that you will discover planet Earth and you will just, it's to die for. It's just to die for. It's the most marvelous place. It's to die for. And you will have no regrets. So that's today's sponsor, living on planet Earth. We have a magical chapter. There's a fisherman who's very curious. I think that he might be living on planet Earth. He heard me talking about planet Earth. He said, that's what I'm out here doing too. I'm out here living on planet Earth. I'm fishing. I heard you had a charcuterie board. Sir, I do not. I do not. But this chapter, kind of like a charcuterie board. Chapter 20. To bend time. It was clear that my ghastly trauma and alcohol abuse affected my relationship with Celine. Future failures began haunting me like ghosts of past, while a problematic past became my predictable future. Certainty of chaos embraced by fear. Logic implied that being drunk and having a faulty moral compass magnetically drawn towards rock bottom was the real issue. But the unnerving clutches of anxiety seemed inescapable. Self-strangulation fancying addicts find ways to cope. So, illogical reasoning posed the question, what if I just rode a strong buzz? It became routine to stop by the mini-mart en route to work for a flask of cheap whiskey. I'd sit out back before clocking in and have a few swigs with a smoke. It loosened me up enough to sell disco get-ups to retirees reliving the good old days of funk. Hiding shame was the name of the game, having gone unnoticed as visibly intoxicated, unless working with Celine. No matter the masks still worn, she saw right through them. "Why are you chewing gum?" she'd ask me. "You never chew gum." "Just a little anxious today. It helps," I'd reply. "Why are you wearing cologne? You don't wear cologne." "Didn't have time to shower before work." "Why are your eyes bloodshot? You look like hell." "Didn't get any sleep last night, but you should see the other guy." "I know why you're doing this, Icarus," she'd express somberly. "You don't have to. You're better than this, stronger than this." Celine was always trying to help me, right there in the rearview mirror, yet I couldn't see it, having chosen to lie through my rotten teeth. Her eyes of disappointment pierced my heart with a rusty blade, leaving the tetanus burn of shame and guilt coursing through each vein. Dishonesty ran rampant and regret spread like wildfire in my conscience. You don't lie to those you love, and if you do, it's because you lack respect for them and hold no integrity for yourself. I'd taken Celine for granted. Perhaps my despicable ego birthed an insatiable pride unwilling to admit its faults. Maybe another quick swig would fix it all, I thought. It never did. Regardless of my strive for avoidance and love for self-inflicted pain, there was still some empathy intact in the will to stand for injustice. Irony isn't lost to me. The council was superb at degrading others while projecting their bullshit, having been particularly cruel to one girl, Cupcake. The sweetest mean-mugging gal in town. She was suffering a lot in her personal life, having dealt the best she could. I'd often find her moping around on the verge of tears after being picked on. It tore me apart to witness, and one day it became too much. She was sobbing behind a clothing rack, hiding so I wouldn't see. "What happened, Cupcake?" I asked. "Nothing," she replied. "I'm fine." "Really? 'Cause you're crying into a Fred Flintstone costume. Tell me what happened." "When I came in," she said, wiping her tears, "the council pointed at the acne on my chest and started laughing. They said, 'You can't come into work looking like a meth head.' They told me to cover up and have some self-respect. It's so humiliating." My stomach dropped, stirring the liquor as blood began to boil. "I'm so sorry," I said. "They have no right to treat you this way. Wait here for me." I went to the lockers to grab an on-the-go emergency benzo bar. "Have you taken Xanax before?" I asked. "This is just a quarter." "Yeah," she said mid-sob, chuckling. "Okay, good. Take it when you feel the need to. Just promise me something, okay? That you'll get the fuck out of this place and find a job that both deserves and appreciates you." "Wait, why are you saying that? What are you gonna do?" "Doesn't matter. Just promise me." "I promise." "You're a gem, Cupcake," I said, giving her a long hug. "Thank you for being my friend. I've adored every minute here with you. Keep that chin up, all right?" I walked away before she could respond, having been fired up with a finely tuned cerebral cortex. There's wonderful duality in trying to be a decent person with a short fuse for indecency. The council was having a meeting in their office, a perfect circumstance. The entire herd could be verbally slaughtered in one place. I pushed open the door hard enough to slam against the wall. "You've always got to make an entrance." "Just who the fuck do you think y'all are?" I yelled, flailing my arms around to slap at stacks of paper like a humanoid typhoon. "Excuse me," the owner barked. "Muzzle yourself, mutt." The whiskey had me frisky. "What gives you slobs the right to make fun of Cupcake? She's out there crying." "Just who do you think you're "Quiet," I yelled, cutting her off. "I'm the one with the mic. You shit-for-brains think you can treat us like garbage? We're slaving away, standing for hours on end, no breaks, no incentives, selling 1,000 bones a day for minimum wage, just so you can sit on your fat fucking ass. What do you have to say for yourself? The owner was getting the brunt of it now. By her bulging eyes and mouth-breathing dry heaves, it was clear she'd never been spoken to in this manner before. How dare you, psych! I shouted, cutting her off again. That was rhetorical. Forget about it. I don't give a good goddamn what you've got to say. And I'm not done. Your self-righteous egos have bitten off more than they can chew. Try a low-carb approach on for size, fucking twat bags. These are good people out here. It's high time you showed a little respect and appreciation, a little common fucking decency. Shame on all of you. And how dare you treat Celine like you have, intimidate her like that, scare the poor girl, threaten her job, and get in between the two of us. You've no fucking right. You bottom-feeding vultures better shape up before you lose them all. Put that in your pipes and smoke it. Hell, shove them up your lazy asses. Makes no difference to me. And by the way, it smells like a shit-soaked dish rag in here. Hire another young gun to take care of it, because I'm packing up and heading out. I quit! Woo! Icarus, you're a bad boy. If I had a letter of recommendation from every manager I've torn to pieces for being an immoral, undomesticated jackass, a whole lot of cutthroat CEOs would have me on speed dial for exemplary doggedness. Not having suspected such a relentless ambush to come from within, their defenses were down and left as vulnerable targets who never got a word in. The customers had a front row seat to the public stoning. Aside from jingle bells ringing to my every step, the shop was quiet as a mouse. Bodies stood stiff as planks, perhaps frightened by the thought of a well-dressed gent going postal, until I was gone, and everything must have unpaused. I left Cracky's and polished off the whiskey before heading to Thea's. She'd just finished brewing a fresh pot of chai, as if having sensed my distress, and we got to talking. I'm proud of you, kiddo, she said. You did the right thing protecting Cupcake like that. She cares a lot about you, you know. We all do. Thanks, dear, I said. In a world of poetic justice, the heartless sure seem to get away with a whole lot. But now I'm out of a job desperately needed. You and I both. Can't imagine I'll be there much longer, if any of us will. It was Friday, and while Celine wasn't working, she'd pick up her check and catch wind that I'd stormed off in a frenzy after being fired. We weren't on great terms, and I didn't wish to bother her with what happened, but this had an adverse effect that I was too drunk to foresee playing out. I'd realized this when my heart sank to the shrill cry of my name echoing through the courtyard below us. Icarus! Celine yelled, running from her car in hopes of finding me. Once again, alcohol had left me numb to the idea of how my actions would affect Celine and the worry they'd cause. She rushed up the stairs and wrapped her arms around me, sobbing. What the hell, Irk? She yelled, pounding at my chest. They told me you freaked out at work and just left. You weren't at home and aren't answering your phone. I was about to look all over downtown thinking I'd find you in a ditch somewhere. Don't do that. I'm so sorry, Bird, I said, holding her tight. I'm okay. I'm right here. She calmed down after I explained what happened, but that didn't excuse my lack of awareness. The tone of her voice and look in her eyes held the very same fear I'd instilled that night at the club, a fear that I could be gone or found dead, leaving her abandoned. My heart shrunk 3 sizes that day, having hated myself just a bit more than before. The two of us would leave Thea's and take a drive around town to talk. I'm worried about you, Icarus, Celine said. I know, Bird, I replied. I'm worried about me too. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you still talking to Monkey? The question stung, having felt to know why she asked. Sometimes, I replied. Monkey and I are in a weird place at the moment. We pulled onto a road with a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit that circled Virginia Lake. Every time I take this street, it makes me anxious, she said. It reminds me of anxiety itself. This loop never ends, and I'm behind the wheel of a car I'm not even driving. I can't go any faster, and even though there are ways out, I can't find them. This seatbelt becomes tighter, and I gasp for air, only there's nothing left to breathe. It's like an inescapable suffocation. Yeah, I said. In a world headed straight for hell, it's a wonder how we're able to keep our heads above the water. We try our very best, and yet still manage to drown in the shallow end of a kiddie pool. It's sad to say, but we bring this crap upon ourselves. That question was cutting deeper now. Why'd you want to know if I was still talking to Monkey? I asked. Because, she said softly, I need to know that you are still you. Thank you, Bird, I replied. For what? For believing in me. Even when I find it hard to believe in myself. Celine simply smiled, humbling me. It often felt as if she'd known me much better than I knew myself. No more was needed to be said. Between us, there hardly ever was. It's incredible, the understanding's found in simple peace and quiet. Silence is profound if you're truly listening. The ears of our hearts seem to pick up so much more than those of our head. I have something for you, she said after some time. It's back at my place. We got there after sundown and threw on an album of the Moody Blues. Celine was shuffling beneath her altar and pulled out the shoebox of her mother's keepsakes. I hadn't seen it since she's given me the sand dollar. It appeared many additions were made. Things I'd gifted now rested alongside treasures kept closest to her heart. She pulled out an amulet next to... I'm getting attacked by sunscreen right now. It's in my eyeballs and I can't see. God damn. She pulled out an amulet necklace fitted with a ruby gemstone and hanging bells. When I found this, she whispered, draping it around my neck, I knew it belonged to you. All you've given me has always belonged, I said. Thank you. I'll never take it off. It's been many years since that night, both a timeless second and infinite spans since she strung it over my chest. And since then, it's never been removed, as if bound by an unbreakable tether, like Tolkien's mithril. I will carry this piece of her resting over my heart until my chest's final rise, and those bells' very last jingle jangle. Are those my mom's cards poking from your diary? I asked, peering to the box. They are, she replied, along with other notes of yours. So many I can't close it. She laughed, opening it to reveal everything I'd written her. Celine had shown me in so many ways just how strong her love was, and to see the love that I held, each card, poem, note, treasure map, and scavenger hunt, sharing space between the pages of which her mother rest, felt nothing short of divine. She grazed over each card before pulling one from the diary. This is the last card I got from my mother before her passing, she said. It says, Happy birthday, Celine. One of these days we will get it right. I promise. She hesitated, chuckling softly before muttering, So much for getting it right, huh? My heart broke hearing her read it, having heard it all too many times from my own mother. That knife cut deep for us, to have hoped for a promising day which never seemed to arrive in either of our lives. I wished to have comforted her, but there are some blades which can only be removed by our own hand and given healing at our own will. I'm sorry, Celine, I whispered. I can only imagine just how proud she must be of you, just how much she loves you, and always has. It hurts terribly to feel loss, but that love is still in front of you, within Thea's arms, our mother's second chance to make things right. Opening your heart again may not be easy, but this cosmic entanglement is no accident. It's our lesson in love. That's how I know who you are to me, who we are to each other. I can't be what heals you, Icarus, she spoke somberly. I'm not asking you to, but I know it's healing we can find together. You're gonna get hurt, Urk, she said, sinking her head. Go back home. Your brothers need you there. It's time to be with them. What about this hasn't hurt us already? You are my home, Bird. How do you know you aren't just starstruck? What makes you so certain of who I am, that you see me for me? Starstruck? I asked playfully. Silly girl, am I head over heels for your capricious attitude or alluring arrogance? Is it your big-headed stubbornness that has me so smitten? If I was starstruck, loving you would be a breeze. This kind of love takes work. That much I know. I may have been joking around, but truth be told, there wasn't a goddamn thing which made loving Celine difficult. She'd done no wrong.
The real issue was both forgiving and loving myself. That girl could raise a dagger to my heart, and with my final breath, I'd still express just how proud I'll always be of her. We may have played coy in our relationship, having acted as friends while avoiding the obvious, that we were two people gone mad for each other. But the sorrow we carried and the pain it cost divided us. Celine was the greatest teacher I wasn't quite ready to understand, and there was nothing I could tell her that she hadn't already known. We drove back to my place and kept to the car, waiting on each other to speak. I promise I'm not crying. It's not because it's an emotional moment. It's just, there's hydrochloric sunscreen acid in my eyes. I don't know how or why or what's to come, I said, but I've always known, Bird, that you were out there, somewhere, and that one day we'd find each other. Icarus, she said, if we really are a shared soul, don't you think we need to do some of this growth on our own first? Like walk our own path, learn our own lessons, heal our own wounds, and reach a certain place of enlightenment if we're to truly be together? Those words symbolized unconditional love in its purest form. Her having realized time and distance were mere illusion, that the path to find our souls joined as one first required two halves to be found complete. It was an unwavering faith of which she'd express, but in having lacked the heart to listen, it took me years before truly hearing. But I'm listening now. Who knows what enlightenment is, I said. If obtainable, surely it isn't sustainable. It's in the journey itself that we discover who we are, and no matter how difficult, I know that's a path we can figure out together. There Celine sat, a bird well beyond her years, offering up ancient knowledge in the humblest of ways. Yet I was deaf, blind, jaded, and dismissive. I rejected her insight with haste, favoring dependency while showing disrespect for her personal development. Unconditional love requires selflessness, and in that moment, I chose selfishness. I've made countless mistakes in life, and countless times have I felt to fail in seizing redemption. But those are the monumental experiences which propel us into purposeful growth and understanding. True salvation is surrendering to our own forgiveness, the most elusive trait of self. But with that said, if given the chance to turn back the clock to any one moment in my entire existence, it'd be there in that car, if only to tell her she was right. I can't change the outcome of my choice to disregard her feelings, but I can forgive myself for it, having finally discovered that unwavering faith in the paths we'd each need to embark upon. Let's go inside, Bird, I said. There's something I have for you as well. I grabbed the treasure chest before taking a seat on the bed, opening it to reveal what remained of my mother, the trinket she passed with in her hand, a locket of hair, hospital bracelet, jewelry, sack of marbles, red clown nose, and keys to a bitchin' '68 Mustang. And sharing space alongside them were keepsakes of Celine. Her mother's sand dollar, the bow tie worn at the rodeo, a cigarette butt from that night, stained with her psychotically smeared lipstick, an old scrunchie, deflated red balloon, temporary clown tattoos, an empty box of her favorite candy, and our Circus game cards, amongst others. Little bird, I said softly, just as you have kept parts of me closest to your mother, so have I kept parts of you closest to mine. Celine smiled, peering to an old, dilapidated copy of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And what's that? She asked. My mother's favorite book, I said. She asked me to always keep it safe, just as she had for her mom. It's seen better days, a metaphor for life, I suppose. For no matter how tattered it becomes, the story remains beautiful. What's it about? She asked. It's about you, duh! A little bird learning to fly. Then who's Jonathan? She asked, laughing. Jonathan was an outcast trying to be like other gulls, but he knew his place wasn't with them. He belonged to the sky, and his heart to the wind beneath each wing. But in trying to defy being ordinary, he'd fail to soar great heights in speed. Seagulls belong to the shore, limited by their nature, not the heavens, he'd tell himself. So, while it wouldn't fulfill him, he'd promised to remain like everyone else. So what did he do? Celine asked with eager eyes. Well, break that promise, of course. He spread his wings, soaring higher and faster than any gull ever dreamt. But Jonathan's search for purpose wasn't met with equal eyes, and he'd be banished, having to live out his days in lonesome isolation. The end. Don't be a jerk, Irk. That's not the end. Does he ever return home? What home would he have returned to? Home to the ordinary? Home to those who banished him for wishing to fly where no one else had? Then what does he do? How does it end? Silly bird, you tell me. This is your story, after all. What is it you've forgotten? Don't speak to me in riddles, you cryptic nincompoop. I'm but a humble clown, and the bird who sees farthest flies highest. So, help me to see. You're the teacher here. Spread your wings, take flight, and soar home. Wow, okay, you're a strange bird, Irk. Says the dork. I'd like to think my mother's out there as a hummingbird, surely keeping a watchful eye over us, and I know she's loving you. Attached to the back of that book was a note my mother gave me, alongside those cards meant for her daughter on the Christmas before her passing. A note I hadn't shared with Celine at the time, for I wouldn't realize what it meant until piecing my mother's cards together. My Icarus Mikhail, I need you to know that this gift means so much to me. I've never been well equipped to deal with death, as you know. To me, it's nothing more than a tremendous loss. So, when I lost my mother on March 16th, 1984, my mind went into a kind of survival mode. The pain is something you can't even imagine, and I have learned that time, for me, does not lessen the pain. What time has done is made the periods which go by without thinking of it further apart. Time made me an expert at blocking those thoughts, and unfortunately, blocking those thoughts seemed to have erased most of the memories shared with my mother. What I can remember, though, is that I loved her so much that my heart hurt, and I remember that this book was her favorite, that she always spoke about it. For the longest time, I didn't know why she felt so much for this story, not until you became your true self, and I began to understand. Now I know how significant this book is. So, please keep it safe, and please read it for her, the one you bring home. Remember, Icarus, she doesn't need to be saved. She needs to be found and appreciated for who she is. Thank you, my beautiful son. All my love, Mom. Just as it had for my mother, with time, things became clearer. She'd known hers was coming to an end, and in preparing me to face that pain, she'd already known of Celine's, the daughter who had been working to repress her own mother, just as mine once had. Time is a paradox, and whether aware of her magic or not, my mother bent its fabric for me. I picked up her pocket watch, spade Zippo, and ring of skeleton keys, grazing over each of them in my palm. I love you, Mom, I whispered before meeting Celine's eyes. Just like you and me, Bird, I said, or that smug-faced monkey over there. These trinkets carry a pulse. They have a beating heart. And as my mother passed with them in her hand, they became the physical manifestation of her undying love. Celine gently brushed over them, just as she had the scar on my palm. I spoke softly. What our mothers gifted unto us will always and have always been a part of us, even those we can hold, whether a watch with no tick, a picture, or sand dollar. They become immortalized within us as sacred artifacts, timeless mementos, and universal reminders. They hold spirit, belief, purpose, and love, like relics of the eternal. They symbolize what remains when flesh and blood have returned to the earth and our souls join the great beyond. They pass knowledge for future generations growing to discover themselves, just as those who held them once had. These trinkets are the dirt below my feet, fire in my heart, ash upon my face, and the wind beneath my wing, all of which my mother left to help guide me, navigating that map within the stars above, and find my way home to you. I took Celine's hand, placing each trinket in her palm. As I've watched over these, I said, closing her hand in mine, my mother has watched over me. And as wonderful a treasure chest this may be, I know of another box she'd prefer they rest within, for the daughter she'd now wish to watch over. I'll keep them safe, she said, smiling back with tender eyes. I knew since the very moment Celine held my hand to brush that scar, that they'd always belong to her. that my mother wished for her to have them, just like those letterless cards. They belonged to her daughter, the one she'd give her undying love to, the one she'd wait for me to bring home to her. And now, I finally had. We shared a cigarette in silence before she left. Celine took me in her arms, squeezing tighter and holding longer than ever before. The kind of hug given when hearts meet distance. I gazed up to that starry, sense-shattering night sky and rested my head over hers. "Is everything all right, Bird?" I whispered. "Yeah," she said with a slight crack in her voice. Since a young age, I've understood that hearing goodbye wouldn't always feel like a good one, but more often a far between, sad, or perhaps even last one. However, as Celine released me from her arms, I hadn't felt any of those things, nor would I tell her goodbye. "Farewell, Bird," I called as she got into the car. "So long, Bird," she said before driving off. "Caw, caw," we laughed. So long was all right with me, I thought, watching as her taillights faded off. So long was all right, because through time and space, for so very long, I'd already waited. Hours passed as I laid in bed that night with looping thoughts, being unable to shake Celine's birthday card. One of these days, we will get it right, I promise. I'd heard it spoken so many times before, yet now, the somberness in her voice grew sadder and sank deeper within me, echoing through the years of past. Often to a dream I'd drift, to a time and place I'd long since sift, spoke too often, heard too swift. It's so goddamn magical. You know, that chapter really rivals To Remember Pan. You know, I said that was my favorite chapter that I read out in the Willows. But this one has such diversity, you know. Icarus's troubles with, alcohol consumption. His unrelenting aggression towards the council. I thought that was pretty funny. I very highly doubt that they thought that was pretty funny. His vulnerability in realizing how his actions had affected Celine. How his inaction, by being so fucking drunk, continued to affect Celine. These understandings that he's starting to have are what will propel him towards purposeful growth. What will propel him towards understanding the fears that he flees, the pains that he flees. And then even in these dire straits, these trying times, there is still such magic and innocence and purity between him and Celine. Do you see now how this chapter is like a charcuterie board? There is so much going on. It's so wonderful. I'm trying to think if the next chapter is as magical. Because I do not want another whoopsie-daisy occurrence happening. But you know what? Fuck it. I do not remember. So let's just say that all chapters are magical. Because even the sad ones, even the gross ones, even the gruesome ones, the violent ones, they have magic. Maybe not to everyone. But to transmute those terrible, terrible things into something so remarkably beautiful,
I would certainly call that magic. But we will see. We will see when the time comes to read. Thank you so much for joining me. Truly, truly, truly. Thank you so much for dealing with my eyes. My eyes were having an existential crisis. I may as well have had Ozempic in my eyeballs. Hydrochloric acid, anaconda, man-eating anaconda juice, fucking Ozempic was in my eyeballs. And it was making me cry. Perhaps a bit of the chapter made me tear up a little bit, but it was the acid in my eyes. But that doesn't matter. All that matters is that it was a wonderful, magical chapter. And now I'm going to go take advantage of the fact that the sun has melted the clouds away like Ozempic. The sun has injected the clouds with Ozempic. They're just melting away. And I'm going to go for a nice little walk. So again, thank you so much for joining me for another magical chapter of The Stars Above. And I will see you next time.